This week on ETTO's Sidequest, we went to PAX. Right, Josh?
Which one? There's two of us?
Hello everyone, and welcome back to episode number 6 of ETTO's Sidequest. I am Ben, and I am joined by not one, but two Joshes. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Whoa! This is going to be confusing. So Finchy is now Finchy.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm Finchy, but hello, I'm Finchy.
Amazing. And we've got other Josh. Original Josh?
OG Josh.
OG Josh.
1.0.
Yeah.
Lesser Josh.
Yeah. I'm definitely gonna screw it up because they're both Joshes, but we're gonna say it's Sheep and Finch for this episode, and then we'll work around it. But yeah, we're all gathered here today. That was a very churchy way to start that.
Very formal.
But we're all gathered here today because we went to PAX, as you might have heard at the top of the episode. It was very, very cool. And we thought we're going to do an extra special episode about PAX of ETTO's Sidequest and some of the games we played and just the general vibe of the whole thing. Which does mean there's no usual bulletin board or quest log. Those are our segment names. They're really cool, Finchy. But it's fine because no news happened this week, right?
Definitely not. There was nothing interesting happened this week.
Nothing interesting at all.
In today's gaming news, Microsoft's Activision Blizzard acquisition is finally complete.
So yeah, it's fine. We're just going to jump straight into what we did at PAX, which is part of a segment that we like to call Sheep.
The main quest.
Damn right it is.
Yes.
So good. So good. And the sting has just played. Finchy did not know why we were going silent there for a second, but we're inserting
I
a
was
sting
like,
in
am I
there.
meant to be like saying something here? Like, you just both looked at
You're not.
Looked at the screen happy, but
No.
okay.
You were meant to bring a guitar in and play the sting for us.
Totally.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
Forgot it. I'm sorry.
Just making it extra awkward for you, not knowing what the heck's going on.
Absolutely. It's all
but
right,
yeah.
we don't
Kind of my vibe.
PAX Australia 2023. It was, I think I calculated my 6th PAX that I've been to.
Wow.
Maybe 7, I don't know. I could have got that wrong. Josh, you've been to quite a few as well. But it was Finchy's first PAX. I already screwed up the names. It's fine. We'll work with it.
That's okay.
It was my 5th. Sheep's 5th.
Yeah.
Finchy's first.
But it was my first. So it was,
Tell us about what your first experience of PAX was like. We'll talk about what it was like for us, but I just want to hear from you. The horse's mouth, as they call it. What was it like? The goat's mouth. That's better.
The goat's mouth.
Nice.
Sweet. I'll take that. Yeah, so it was a lot of fun. A big weekend. Lots to see, which was cool. It was like, I think the venue was like a lot bigger than I was imagining. And it was like so good just to see like all that was there. Like you had the big AAA companies, and then you had the like little indie companies, and then you went on to like the back of the venue and had all the tabletops. And that was cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a lot to take in.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. And you got big into one of the tabletops, which we'll talk about later.
Yes,
sure.
very
to the point of buying a few of them
Absolutely.
after returning home, which is very, very cool.
Yeah. I will say, just from my perspective, it was lovely, and I think I enjoyed this PAX more because you were with us, and I was able to live vicariously through you as a first-time PAX goer, see the joy in your eyes at seeing all these cool things. I think on the Saturday of PAX, or the Friday, maybe it was the Friday. It was probably the Friday. We went and did the airport flight simulator flight stick setup.
Oh, the flight sim, yeah.
Yep. And then we also did the F1 cars, like proper racing rig setup. And just seeing how excited you were for those, and then hearing that you went back the next day while we were all busy with work to go and do them again was brought me a lot of joy.
That was so good.
So addictive because I went the next day, and the people were like, because I think one of the ladies recognized me from the day before, and she was like, hey, do you want to do another one instead of the one you did yesterday? I was like, yeah, okay, cool. And then I did another one, and then it went smooth landing, except the landing gears didn't go down. And no one knew where the landing gear button was on the sim, so...
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
But
So
you properly landed the plane.
Yeah.
Like it was a 747.
Safely without landing gear, which is a feat in of itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was... Because the lady was like... Because I crashed, and it... Like, the game kind of goes, oh, you crashed, blah, blah, blah. But the lady was like, if you had the landing gears on, that would have been...
Perfect.
Like,
textbook.
full marks, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel
technical
like
landing.
Finchy was the best out of the four of us that did it. Because
Yeah.
we all had a go, and I think Finchy was the only one that, like, properly landed on the airstrip in the first one.
I think
Ben, you had one wheel off, and apparently that didn't count.
No, it did count. I didn't really land it properly, but it counted because I had one wheel on the airstrip.
Oh,
so
right.
I got a
okay.
score in Flight Simulator, but Finchy was the only one that landed a plane how you should, which is all four wheels on the airstrip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is
She
very
absolutely
impressive.
nailed it. Better
Yeah.
than the rest of us.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then absolutely...
Josh,
I was just going to say, you absolutely smoked me in the F1 race as well. Which
I was so nervous with...
You were so nervous, and then you just nailed it, and I was very humbled by that experience.
Man,
Yeah,
secret
because
pro gamer
Ben,
here.
you were like... With the in the lineup, Ben, you were like, oh, I've driven around it. I was like, I've scooted around it. Like, you probably have like more experience of like the real world map layout.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like panicking and trying not to crash, and
Yeah, well, you did a very good job. I will say, driving around Albert Park, which was the track we were driving around at PAX, driving around it in a real car in real life when you're just like driving through it to get somewhere, very different experience to driving in an F1 car, and I very quickly learnt that.
For anyone that doesn't know, the F1 and Albert Park is like in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And it's just a normal road that you can go drive on, but it gets blocked off for the F1 close to Easter time every year. And so, it's so bizarre that it's a real thing, and it's like built into video games, and you can go play it.
Yeah. That was very cool. It was very fun. Again, also, I haven't lined up for a lot of stuff at past PAXs, but having Finchy there wanting to line up to do things made me then do it. And I was happy about that, because, man, I got to do those fun things. So really, you were the hero of PAX, Finchy.
Oh,
we did it.
I was just going to segue into my thoughts, which was, it was a very good weekend. I really enjoyed PAX this year. I think it was because it's probably one of my most chill PAXs I've had, maybe since like the very first couple I was going to, when I didn't have any work or volunteer commitments. I had some work to do on the Saturday for this PAX, but I think I was overall a lot less busy and able to just relax and take in the enjoyment of the space as well. I also think there were less big companies kind of on the expo floor than we've seen in previous years. No PlayStation, no Xbox. Quite a big Nintendo booth because of the Mario stuff, obviously. I think that actually meant there felt like there was a lot more space on the show floor, which was really nice. It felt a lot less crowded. And that was super good. And I think the other reason I enjoyed it was this first year I'm medicated for ADHD. So I wasn't like struggling to take in all the overstimulation stuff. So that was good.
Amazing.
But overall, I also think, just generally a very good time, because we all had a pretty chill weekend, got to do some stuff with Finchy, got to do our panel, which we'll talk about in a bit. Play some cool games. So I think PAX 2023, great success.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it was one of, for me, kind of my most social ones as well, I think. Just getting to hang out with the ETTO crew pretty much the whole time, plus my wife tagging along as well. So it was cool to experience it through her eyes too, like someone who's not a gamer, but still kind of, interested in things and wanting to look at things. Just getting to run around with you guys as well, and pretty much the entire time. And then there was quite a few meetups and things, like there was an ETTO meetup, there was a Back Pocket meetup, Just getting to like hang out with a bunch of people.
Totally.
It was it was awesome overall.
Just on that, I hadn't really thought of it, but yeah, it was nice to just do it as like an ETTO crew. Obviously, Sam couldn't make it down, which sucked, but it was nice to actually like spend most of the weekend with 4 or 5 of us going around just doing stuff, enjoying PAX. Obviously, occasionally we had commitments, but that was like definitely. I'd say it was like the best sense of community, both from an ETTO and back pocket front, that I've had in a long time at PAX. Even though there's maybe less people there overall, it just felt very like communal and enjoyable and stuff.
Definitely.
Great couple of communities we're a part of. Well, yeah, that's our thoughts on PAX. But as ETTO, we of course had a big ETTO panel. We Don't Talk About Milk Club, I believe was the name.
Yeah.
It sure was a time. It was a panel of all panels. The 4th or 5th ETTO panel?
It was the 4th.
The 4th ETTO panel? I think there was 2 pre-COVID and then
4th.
2 post-COVID.
Yes, correct. 4th. Yeah.
And
in classic ETTO fashion, from the very beginning, before we even got to play the intro video, things started to go wrong, of course. Will was struggling to get the mouse to work. There was some weird issues going on with the game that was already running that we were meant to be playing, and getting the cursor from that game to go into OBS to play our intro video before. And it was just classic ETTO. And then as we're discussing the rules, realizing as we're discussing them in front of the people, the audience, realizing this doesn't work. The rules that we made up do not make sense for the game and the competition that we are running. And saying that out loud to everyone basically before the panel started. So just off to a flying start within the first 5 to 10 minutes of the panel. It was great.
Yeah. So we followed up on last year, which was we did the Mario Kart milk run, where you had to drink milk while completing a race of Mario Kart. And that went pretty well, I'd say. And people drink their milk while playing Mario Kart. You just put the cart down, cart stops driving, drink the milk. Easy enough challenge. And we were like, we can translate this to another kind of game. Initially, the plan was Gang Beasts, and then we realized Party Animals was coming out around PAX, so we kind of pivoted to that. And yeah, as Josh said, we did... I believe it was Finchy, me, and Will played it on a stream beforehand to kind of test the waters and see how it would go. And we were like, this seems like it'll work well enough. This will be fine.
Yeah, in theory, when like on the stream, it was like, there's nothing got to be wrong.
Yeah.
And then when we put milk into it, then...
Yeah, when we put milk into it, that was the real kicker, because we realized very quickly that having milk as like part of the win condition of a game, which already has like multiple win conditions and just a lot of stuff happening, just really didn't work. The simplicity of a cart driving down a track versus all these animals fighting with crazy different weapons was a real struggle. But I think I would like to say, and from all the feedback I got from people who went to the panel, everyone said they enjoyed it, which, you know, we can believe them if we want to. But I think it overall was enjoyable. I think we embraced the chaos and just lent really hard into trying to work out how this was going to work. At some point, one of our community members who was on stage, Diablo Kyle, drank like 2 liters of milk in a very short space of time.
Almost.
Yep. And
that's a lot of milk.
Was essentially the winner. We did actually get to crown a winner. There was someone who clearly won the whole thing. So
yeah, there was some level of victory there. We're not sure on what front, but I feel like drinking 2 liters of milk is probably a win enough in our eyes.
Well, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe.
I don't know about that.
Not a win for them later.
And lost.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, it was definitely fun to like see a bunch of people kind of coming back from previous year's panels. Josh, you mentioned that every year you kind of have gone and like asked who's there, who knows who we are from a previous panel or from online.
Yeah, usually every year we say like, who's seen us on the internet or whatever, who knows who we are, and nearly no one does. And then this year we said, who's seen us in a panel before, and I swear it was like half, if not, 2/3 of the audience put their hand up. So it's like we're getting a really good returning audience, which is really cool, super encouraging, and very fun.
And shout out to PAX themselves, who like actually promoted our panel on their socials this time and put out Will's little promo video, which was super cool. I probably roped in a few extra people to come along. And like the vibe of the audience was great. Like everyone makes it this really cool experience. One of the things we kind of talked about later amongst ourselves is it's really cool that part of our panel is like getting other people up on stage involved and getting to do stuff, and it just becoming this communal event. And I think that's a really like fun and maybe slightly more unique thing than a lot of other panels do. So I thought that was super awesome.
Kind of we like facilitate a bunch of people to be like the main characters of this panel, like the main main people that everyone's like cheering on, and someone gets to be a hero, and everyone has their like funny moments and stuff on stage. They get their time in the sun, and it's awesome to have that opportunity to get people up for that.
And we have returning characters at this point now as well. We
do.
Normally at the start we would do like a little ETTO version of the game we were trying to run, where we drink some milk and play the game. But this year we were like, well, if we have enough people coming back who have won or competed in previous years, we can get them on stage. And lo and behold, we did have a lot of our previous winners back, including, his name is escaping me right now, but the little kid who won, Lachlan. Of course, Lachlan. Absolute
Thanks,
hero.
Josh, whose brother is named Lachlan. So
that's how I like remembered it. I was like, my brother's named Lachlan. This little kid's Lachlan.
Very good.
But yeah, he obviously won last year and won an esky live on stage that he held up over his head, and we were very scared he was gonna be crushed to death by it. But anyway, he came back this year and competed in that like all-stars kind of game, and it was very fun to hear all the crowd start cheering for him and chanting for him.
And he was wearing the hat that he got last year?
He was.
That we signed last year. It was great.
Yeah, very cool. Just an all-around good time. I like getting to ask people silly questions at those panels as well. I found out a lot of people's opinions on soup this year, which was good to know. Generally,
toast.
It's soup and toast. And it was fun, obviously, to get Finchy up on stage and getting involved. I feel like you did a very good job despite being somewhat nervous, I know, beforehand.
Yeah. I was just super nervous because I've never experienced like doing a panel before.
Yeah.
But that was just I just loved how chaotic it was.
Yeah.
It was just
totally
great.
Yeah. You just go with it. It's only an hour.
Yeah.
How much can go wrong?
It's 100% that.
But like, like Will was saying that like it goes so quickly, like the hour, and then I was like, oh yeah, okay. But then it just, like, 1 minute we were introducing ourselves, and the next minute we crowned a winner, and we were saying bye to everyone. I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah, it's so crazy. It feels like I am not on this planet for a little bit, because every time one of these panels ends, I feel like I, like, come out of this adrenaline state, and I'm like, what the heck just happened? And it's, I'm just like, all the adrenaline that I was working off for the entirety of the panel is just gone. Definitely was the most noticeable, I think, this year. But it's something you only get to do like once a year, and I feel like that's the joy of it. You can put our whole ass into it.
Yes, yeah. I want to tell a story as well, because I was wearing a special milk shirt based on the Icy kind of Slurpee type logo, but Icy, the old school one. That Will designed and is available on our Redbubble. But I spruiked it on stage at the show, and I had one person, I believe it was Lucrius, came up and said that they bought one. And then when Maxine and I got back to the train station near where we live, which is, not that close to the city, hours later, because we went to dinner after, we went to another panel. So we were back at like 11:30 maybe. I saw someone with a Spider-Gwen shirt on from a distance that had also gotten off the train. And it looked like a very gender neutral shirt. And I know Will and I had been wanting a Spider-Gwen gender neutral kind of shirt for a long time, because a lot of them look feminine, and that's not really sort
Totally.
of clothing that we want to wear. So, you know, I was like, oh, I took some photos of it to maybe see if I could track it down later. And Max was like, why don't you go ask him? And I was like, why not? So I just ran after this guy, 11:30 at night in the dark. I'm so sorry to that guy. Ran over and was like, hey, like, sorry to bother you. I just wanted to know where your shirt came from. And we had this back and forth, and he asked his sister, because it was a gift from his sister, and found out it was from EB Games, in case anyone wants to go track down that shirt. It's only $30 as well. But they saw my shirt and they were like, oh, I just bought a hoodie that's similar to that because I just saw someone wearing it at a PAX panel that I just saw like a few hours ago. I was like, that was me. That was literally my shirt.
Yeah.
So bizarre.
And to be clear, we only had 2 purchases. So we know the 2 people who purchased it. One of them told us at the panel, which made sense. But then the fact that you tracked down the one other person.
Yeah. They happened to be on my train at the same time that I was on the train.
Yeah.
Like, getting off at the same stop and hours and hours after we'd finished.
Yeah.
Just ridiculous. Like, weirdly unfathomable chances.
And if somehow you're
They're just,
listening
like, so
to this
far as
podcast as well, because you've come across our stuff because of it, please make yourself known to us.
Please.
Because,
Hit us
you
up.
know, it's super cool. And we'd love to chat to you more. And for you to be a part of our wonderful little community.
Definitely.
But yeah, the panel was great. I think we all agree. Panel was a very good time. It will be back in some form next year, maybe a bit less milky, and maybe with a bit less, a bit more organization and some less convoluted rules. Hopefully, but we'll see. It's always a bit chaotic.
It's going to be an ETTO panel, so
it will be
True.
But yeah, we talked about just general experience in the panel, but there's one other big part of PAX, which is, of course, the games. It's what
essentially
most
the
people,
biggest part, really.
Yeah, it's what most people go there for.
The reason why we're all there.
Yeah. And we thought we each played a bunch of games across the weekend. That was one of the other nice things for me. Is last year I basically didn't get to play any, but this year got to play a bunch. So much so to the point I had to like omit some that I wanted to talk about. So we got a nice little amount here. But yeah, we were able to play a bunch of games, go around all the little indie booths mainly, tabletop booths, and kind of find some stuff we're into. So we're each going to pick 3 main games to talk about. We might have a couple other shout outs, but 3 games that we're going to talk a bit more in depth about. And yeah, that's what we're going to do. So to start off with, Finchy, would you like to talk about your 3 games? I also I will bring up footage for people who are watching this on video, so it'll be overlaid over the top. Audio listeners, we'll try and give you all the details we can about the games, so you can go look them up.
I also I'm so sorry. So sorry.
How dare you?
I also just super quickly want to say, probably nearly all of the games we're about to talk about have demos.
Yeah.
Like right now that you can go play on Steam.
Yeah.
So if any of these stand out to you, like these are all games that we're going to be recommending. Because we enjoyed them, so you know they have our tick of approval. You can probably go check them out on Steam right now. So just wanted to keep that in mind so that people can note down games and go play them right now.
Yeah. I'll also put all the links in the description for people who want to just go directly and wishlist them and stuff. Anyway, Finchy, would you like to tell us about your games?
Yes. So my games, I'm going through all 3 of them.
Yes.
Yeah. Or
go for it.
Cool. Sweet. So the first game I played was Conscript. So basically, Will and I were I think we were walking around with you, Josh, as well, and maybe you, Ben. But we were just walking around, and then we stopped and looked at this game. And then one of the guys who was working on the game came up and we started having a chat. Basically, he was the guy who worked on the sound side of stuff, scored it all. But yeah, basically, this Conscript is like this. What is it, like bird's eye? Not bird's eye. Like look
top
down.
Top down. Yeah.
Top down. That's it. Top down game where you're basically this French soldier during World War One, and you just got to basically work your way through the trenches, in a battle over in France or Germany or something like that. yeah, and so at PAX I played about 10 to 15 minutes of it. Didn't get too far because I died a few times.
Yep.
But it was just like a really enjoyable game. The art style was like a very pixelated
Yeah.
style, which I'm not a massive fan of, but like this was like, I really liked it. Like I don't think it would have suited any other art style.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Definitely fits the era, I would say, for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I really liked, just really liked the game and like how you had to, like, switch between weapons and
Yeah.
yeah, it was just, and it felt very good to play.
Yeah.
With all the controls and stuff.
Yeah, it was
awesome.
hard too. It was a hard game. I played a little bit of it as well, along with Will, and yeah, it was a tough one. Like, I guess we were jumping in pretty, like, kind of get thrown in
Yeah.
pretty quick. So having to
As you
learn,
do with
like,
a lot
how
of
to
these
spot certain
demos.
things.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard to fully wrap your head around.
Yeah.
But putting the headphones on and listening to it, the sound design was so good. Like, everything was so chunky.
Yeah.
Like, just nice and clear and crisp and chunky. Like, you know, the sounds of reloading like an old school World War rifle, or, you know, like explosions and all this sort of stuff was just so crisp and just huge. It was really, really cool. It was a great game. Very fun.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
It looks like it has some very early Resident Evil style inventory management. You're like having to like kind of Tetris your inventory just with a select amount of items, which is super cool. A few games kind of going back to that style now, but I feel like they're almost always horror games, so it's cool to see. I mean, it's still World War One, so it's pretty horrific, but it's a kind of slightly different setting still.
Yes.
A bit more like historical rather than fantasy horror, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that's one of the things that the sound guy had brought up. He wanted, well, the guy who was actually making the game didn't want like a horror game, like a horror war game that is already out in the world today. So like he just wanted like a more accurate. Here's how it would have been in the trenches.
Yeah, cool.
So yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, that was a really good game. And going on the sound design, I was playing it today, and even through my speakers, it's just a lot better than the headphones, I think. But the headphones were still great at PAX. But I think, yeah, it's just a really good sound designed game.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that we're
so I'm
kind
excited
of.
for.
Sorry, yeah, you're excited for it. I love that we're kind of able to go back and play a lot of these demos later now, because often in the moment at PAX there's a lot of like noise around you. It can be kind of hard to fully concentrate. So I was able to like go back and check a few games out that I'd played previously, just to kind of revitalize that experience, and kind of the benefit of having demos be a lot more common again. And also Steam Next Fest happened like the week after PAX, so it was very helpful that a lot of the demos kind of came with that. But yeah, no, totally. What was your second game, Josh?
So my second game was a game called Fence. So basically I walked into PAX and it was the first store, like the first little game that I saw that had a free computer.
Yep.
So I walked up to it. I was like, oh, what's this game? And then so I sat down. So basically it's like a crime trading RPG thing set in like the 90s. So basically you're this teenager who's like just been expelled from high school. Like your mum, like your dad's out of the picture. Like the dad's out of the picture, and your mum's like very much an alcoholic, which sounds depressing and stuff. So but so what he's trying to do is just trying to make ends meet.
Yeah.
And he's doing some shady stuff like trading and selling stolen items and flipping them and trying to get money that way. But it was really, it's like a point and click,
Yep.
which is a game, which is another type of game that I'm not really into. But it worked really well being a point and click.
Totally.
Maybe
Yeah,
you
and
are
so
into
it's-
these games, Josh.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
Maybe
I
you
am.
are and you didn't know.
Totally.
This is your
Exactly,
awakening.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I
Yeah,
was going to say, I feel like I had a chat with you over the course of the weekend where you were like, I've played a bunch of, you mentioned you haven't really played a lot of indie games. And you're like, I played a bunch more indie games and this makes me want to go and check out a lot more of these kinds of games and stuff because you just have been opened up to them, I guess. So.
Yeah, because I'm not much in, like, I haven't played many indies. I'm, like, always going for, like, the big AAA games. So it was quite nice. Yeah,
Ben
not
and I
having
would
the big
love to
AAA
recommend
game.
you more indie games.
Yeah, we've got so many.
Cool.
We've got so
Sweet,
many
thank
for
you.
you. It's our jam.
Yeah.
Great. I know who to go to now.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, this game, it was like a really good game to play. The demo was pretty short, but it was kind of like a 3D rendered game, so it wasn't pixelated like the previous game, which was Conscript. That's it.
Conscript.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a really well designed game, and just the storyline sounds pretty good. Well, intense, but sounds good.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I'm excited to play it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's releasing 2024 apparently, so hopefully they can get it
so-
out. The one thing I was going to say about it is it's kind of, I feel like we don't get a lot of point and click games with like a 3D art style. They often are more like pixelated and stuff, so it's kind of cool to see a point and click game with this kind of art style. I think it's super interesting.
Yeah, I played a little bit of that as well. It was it's very cool. The language was very much written as like 90s dude kind of writing. Which is good fun, and the little bits of like, you know, you buy a Walkman or something and then you take it back to your basement and you clean it up, and there's different sort of mechanics with that. It was cool. It was an interesting one. It was like, I think it was a little more dry than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But I'm still intrigued by it. There's
Totally.
something there that I'm like, maybe this could be pretty cool. So yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, awesome.
Because there's the mechanics with the police. Like, you get heat for all the stolen goods you have. So that's a pretty cool thing. So like, you get the more heat you get, the more likely you're gonna get picked up by the cops. And then it's this whole system that they've got, which is cool, about how to decrease all your heat and stuff. But yeah, it's cool from what I've played and read on their
awesome.
Discord that they've got.
Yeah, very cool. Your last game, which is, I believe, a tabletop game that you have plenty to say about. So why don't you take it away?
So, Crime City. So it's actually MicroMacro Crime City. I think it's just the company's name.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically you get this 110 centimeter by 70 centimeter map. And it's all cartoon. And so basically you get 16 cases that you have to try and solve. And the whole map is a time lapse. So it's like you'll get like a crime scene, and you got to like go backwards, trace the person, and then you find the murderer and blah blah blah. And it's like all this story stuff, and then like every twist and turn, like there's all these twists and turns and stuff, and you get like, depending on how big or little the case is, you get certain a number of cards, which is like, it's got like find, where did this person go? You got to find out where that person goes, and then kind of like in your head figure out the story, like why were they there, and then you can turn it over. It gives you the answer. Yeah, and then you move on to the next card. So it's quite enjoyable. There's currently 3 maps out at the moment, and I've got all of them. And I think from what the guy was saying, there's a 4th one coming out soon. And he was saying that like with the 4 maps, you can join them all. Yeah, there's like becomes one big massive map, which I really like, because on the map that I've completed, I saw like some storylines happening, but like I'd trace them, I follow them, and then they just would stop at the edge of the map. I'm like, where are you going? And then it was only last night that I got the second map open. I'm like, oh, there you are. Yeah. And then it continues the storyline. So I'm interested to see.
Yeah. So how does that work how does that work overall? Because if there's separate things that you have to buy, but a story continues over two
Oh,
maps.
so-
Is it something that like isn't in the game, but it's just a story that you recognized, or?
So it's a story that I recognize, that I saw happening while I was investigating other cases, but it wasn't part of the 16 cases that you get per map.
Yeah, right.
So what the guy was saying that was selling it is that eventually down the track, potentially, they'll bring out 16 cases, just cards, and the map for these 16 cases are all 4 maps.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, all 4 maps will become one map.
That's so
You've
cool.
got to investigate.
That's
And so
awesome.
yeah, so it's a really well thought out game. Didn't know I was going to get so addicted to it.
Yeah, you've been sending all messages since PAX being like, oh, I got all this done. And I'm like, wow, you're into this game.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So, it's so cool.
And like
have you been playing it with your family?
No, I haven't. Oh, actually, no.
Okay.
I've been playing with Dad a bit. Like, I did a few cases with him because, like, he was like, "Oh, what's this?" And I was like, "Oh, it's this game." And then I went through the first case with him just so he could get a vibe of how it went. And he's like, "Oh, this is so cool." And so like he's helped me with a couple of the cases, and they get they get harder and harder the further you go, like the more cases you do.
Nice.
And it's very well written. I think it got Game of the Year back in 2021.
Awesome.
Yeah.
The first edition of it.
Yeah, totally. I'm just looking now.
so-
You can play a demo like on their website of the game. Like even though it's tabletop, they've got a little
Cute.
digital demo of it. So
Yeah,
It would
and I
totally
think
work
that
as like a mobile game, I reckon.
100%. And I think the demo on the website is the demo that they had at PAX.
yeah, cool.
Because at PAX, what they had was the 2 big panels that they had was just an enlarged part of a map.
Yeah,
Yeah, so they were able like to sell it. They kind of helped you work through a case.
yeah,
So yeah, because I went up to him, like went up to the store and was like waiting around, blah blah blah, and there was this couple that were in front of me, and then they were like asking the same questions I wanted to, and so I just attached myself to them, and then I was like, oh yeah, cool, and then so that's how I
awesome.
got into it, and then sadly they sold out of them at PAX, so the guy had
you
to tell
got
me where to
yours.
get them from.
Oh no, okay, you got them elsewhere.
Yeah, I got them off Amazon, so
Yeah, cool.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's kind of, from what I can see, it's kind of a little bit Where's Wally like. That you kind of have to go and pick stuff out, but with like obviously more game mechanics to it, of like solving the crime.
Yeah.
So it's like, Where's Wally, but a time lapse.
Yes, yeah. So Maxine and I played this after Josh had highly recommended it, as he is today. He was very excited to tell us all about it. So we went and checked it out, and we love it too. We're going to try and track it down, maybe ask for different boxes of the game for Christmas or something, and try and collect it up
awesome.
at the end of this year. But just to like clarify what Josh was saying about there's a city, but it's a time lapse. It's like the map is like a whole city, one city, and then there's just people drawn at like different points along their storyline. But in the one city, so it's not like the city and then another city and then another city that's the same city with drawn differently. It's like when you look at the city overall, you'll be able to find one character like 10 times, which is their storyline. As they walk from their house to the market to like, through some streets and down some back streets, and you can watch them go through a single picture of the one city. It's very, very cool.
Very
that's a good way of explaining it.
No, I definitely, I'm keen to check this out myself. It also reminds me, there's a game that came out a couple months ago called Crime O'Clock on Steam that is very possibly inspired by each other, very similar kind of vibe, but you can actually like rewind the map back in time and stuff.
Cool.
It's like cool. Same kind of like black and white map style, all that kind of thing. So Josh Finchy, by all means, if you look for more indie video games to play, that's like basically the same style of game. But I was curious when you mentioned like that how that time lapse stuff works in the board game, because obviously in the video game you can literally rewind it and it's a different kind of looking thing. But it's cool that it's actually the characters on the one map, like across time. It's
multiple times.
Yeah. So it seems like it's these like kind of like hidden figures, Where's Wally kind of games are becoming quite popular, and I love them. I think they're cool. I think I'm gonna probably go and try and track down my own bits of this board game as well.
Yeah. I think I saw you can get it at I think EB Games have it, at least on their website. You can get it in EB Games and probably Good Games and things like that as well. So it's totally accessible.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Alrighty, Finchy, that's all your games. But you might have input on some of the games we're chatting about as well. But we're going to jump over to Sheep, Josh, for your 3 games. Which were the first one.
Start off with.
I was just going to say the first one, deeply unsurprising.
Yeah, absolutely. I was also going to say something similar. It was a game called Skate Bums. When I saw this across the way, I was like, that is calling my name right now. And honestly, looking at it, it looks very like retro, a little bit like 70s, 80s sort of style. Very like pink, a lot of pinks and cool sort of those sorts of retro colors. And I thought that it was going to be a roller skating game heading up to it, just based on the artwork and the colors and stuff. But it was actually a skateboarding game. And I really enjoyed it. I was going to say I loved it. I really enjoyed it. I had some issues with the controls. I figured them out. There's some weirdness with some of the controls, particularly grinding after doing a trick and stuff was a little bit off.
Yeah, I was playing it and I just had so much difficulty with the grinding and trying to do that, and it wasn't until you showed me how to do it that I was like, that's how you do it. Yeah. So I feel like it's a fixable thing. I don't know whether other people gave them feedback. I didn't give them that feedback. But it was really cool. It's a 2D side-scrolling skateboarding game in a similar vein to like your Ollie Ollie games. So Ollie Ollie 1 and 2 or Ollie Ollie World more recently. With similar to those games. You've just got the side-scrolling, you've got a couple of tricks you can do, a couple of flip tricks you can do, a few grinds, and some extra mechanics of like, if you jump at the edge of a ramp, then you go extra high, things like that, which happens in actual skateboarding, but not as high as they do. You can jump on top of buildings going off a small ramp in this game. But there's also I think 5 or 8 challenges per level in sort of a Tony Hawk style. So the original Tony Hawk games, you have like high scores to beat, you have like things to collect, special tricks to do or combos to do, things like that. And this game had all of that as well, which is very cool. So that definitely appeals to me very, very much. So yeah, I'm super keen for that.
Totally. Looks super rad, as the skaters say.
It's what they say. Definitely. My next game was a game called The Drifter. Which caught my attention because of the cool, like, dreary pixel art style as well. But one of the things that also caught my attention was a contract programmer that I worked with on Moving Out 2 had also worked on this game. So he was standing around and I went over and chatted to him before I got to actually play the game. And he was like, yeah, after finishing up on Moving Out, I got a job working with these guys. So now he's contracting for this company. So this is an Australian, it's kind of a point and click. And I'll explain why I say kind of in a second. But firstly, I'll say this is aggressively Australian.
Australian. So I played a little bit of the demo the other night because you'd been talking this up. And it is so Australian in the best way, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's when I say that, when we say that, it is in the voice acting.
Yeah.
the voice acting is the most Australian accents that you can possibly imagine. And Maxine did not enjoy it. She was like, I think if you played this, I would struggle to be in the same room. Listening to this the whole time.
So
she doesn't like Australian music. Yeah, she doesn't like Australian music. Like very Australian sounding singers. She doesn't like, particularly Australian TV shows and stuff like that. She's like, it's just cringy and it's weird and it doesn't sound right. So this, she was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed what I played. The story is interesting. I think I heard at the Filthy Casuals panel, I think they might have talked about it briefly.
Yeah. And
when they got to the end of it, they felt like it was going to turn into a time loop game, potentially. So I didn't play that much. I played up to a point where it said, this demo is very long, just so you know. So, this might be a good place to finish, or you can continue on. So I finished at that point because, it was the first game we played and we wanted to go check out some other things.
I believe the exact demo from PAX is on Steam right now and still up.
Great.
Cool. I plan to go back and play a bit more of it, but just from the time, I only played a very short amount, maybe like 15 minutes. But even from that, I was like, the vibes of this are immaculate, Josh.
Yeah. The sound design and everything about it is
the
very,
sound
very
design.
good.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah. And the reason why I said it's kind of a point and click game is I don't know if you can play with a mouse and keyboard and
actually
you can do point and click. You can?
It's normal point and click like that. But I played it the other way mentioned because I was curious.
Yeah. So the other way is you can play this with a controller. And often if there was a point and click game on a controller, I'd probably steer away because it's probably going to be a virtual cursor that you have to move around and very finically like move over objects and onto objects and click stuff. This, I found that they had developed a very unique and controller-friendly way of playing the game, which was as soon as you start moving the right joystick, a little kind of semi-three-dimensional like radial menu comes up, so like a circle with a bunch of dots on it, and those dots represent interactable objects in the room. And so you just have to like rotate the right stick around to whatever you want to interact with, and then you pull the right trigger, which triggers that particular interactable, and then you interact with it. And so it's just like, I found that a very intuitive way to play the game, play a point and click style game. And I was really impressed. Like the dots change color depending on if you've interacted with it already and there's nothing more that you can get out of it, or if you've interacted with it, but if you interact with it again, you can get something else out of it. So right at the start, you interact with a guy 3 times before he actually will interact back with you, and he's very hostile at the end, but it's the only way to progress the story. So there's a guy, you go over to him, he's like, he's asleep, and you stir him and he doesn't want to talk to you, and then you stir him again and he is a little more harsh, and then you stir him again and then he starts attacking you. And there's like, the dot on the radio menu changes differently depending on can you still interact with him, and you've already interacted with him once, kind of thing. It's very good. It's very clever way to go about it, and I hadn't seen that before. I feel it's almost, in my opinion, almost better than playing it with a mouse and keyboard, I reckon, because it gives you see all the dots on the radial menu, so you can already see where all the things are in the room without having to mouse over everything. So you very much still play it point and click, and I'm sure plenty of people will, but from like a accessibility standpoint, I think it's actually really good for people who like need to use a controller or something. I think it's super cool. And just like kind of, as you said, super intuitive. And the game is rad. Like, aside from that, the game is so cool. So it looks very, very cool. I'm intrigued. I may come back to it for sure.
One more game, Josh, which you stole from me.
I did.
I was the first one to play this at PAX.
You were.
And recommend it to everyone.
I'm sorry. I did continually offer this game to you for the podcast.
Okay. I got plenty to talk about, but anyway.
Good. So I played a game called Up to Par. I think we all had a go of it.
Yeah, so I went and played it first because there was a little New Zealand indie section alongside the Aussie indie section that's normally at PAX this year, and that was super cool.
Yes.
And I was spending a lot of time in the New Zealand indie section, and I found this little... I was playing another game, and I saw the pitch, which Josh will go more into in a sec, but I saw the pitch, roguelite mini golf, and I was like, you got me. And I literally went over to the guy who was there and said, you got me with the pitch.
Yeah, 100%. It's so good. So, it is mini golf. It is very like simplistic visuals, but still striking. And it is a procedural mini golf game, essentially. So every time you play the game, the courses are different. The maps are different. I think... Did they say something like you can put a seed in? Yeah,
you can. And so in the current version of the demo on Steam, which is a different one to the one we played, there is like a weekly challenge, which is the same map that you can compete against other people in. So I assume there'll be that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think I remember the guys who were there saying that there's always got to be, like, in the final game, there's got to be a weekly challenge. And I don't know what they're going to do, like, rewards-wise, but... Yeah, it was cool that they can have that like weekly thing. Yeah, they can jump onto a course. Yeah,
it's really cool. And obviously, there's like a bunch of different sorts of mechanics, like different, not mechanics. It's mini golf, but
a surprising amount of mechanics, given that it is just mini golf. Actually, I'd say.
I guess that's true as well. Like it's I think I mostly meant like course. Styles and types and things like that. Or like sections of course types, I guess, because it's procedural. But the idea is basically you start off with three strokes. And every time you finish a map, you get 3 strokes again. So your strokes count down in this. So you have 3. After your first one, you have 2, then you have 1, and you have to get it in that 3 in the first one, otherwise the game ends. And basically, you keep getting 3 strokes added every time you finish a level, and you just go as far as you can until you run out of strokes. So you have 3 the first time. If you get it in 1, then you have 5 the next time, because you have 2 plus another 3, and then it keeps going. And you just see how far you can go. In between sections, I believe you can earn a bit of money and you can spend that to increase some things. Do you remember some of the power-ups, Ben?
So there are a few power-ups. There's some that are like a set amount of uses. So you can, with your leftover shots, you can buy them and they will trigger when a certain thing happens and then you lose them. And there are other ones that are permanent power-ups that you'll just get for the rest of your run. So there's some of the just the single or double use ones. There was one where if you get really close to the pole or the hole, it counts as going in. Or I think another one was if you bounce off the flag, it also counts as going in. Ones like that. Or you can't like go out of bounds or something. Things like that, which could be super cool. I didn't really get to play around with those too much because I was quite bad at it, and I also didn't spend too long. But yeah, it like conceptually is very cool and a good way of doing it, kind of adding a bit more complexity to it.
Definitely. And I have my little gift from them built right here.
Yes, very good.
I will try and hold it up as best I can. I've got to kind of put it back together. The ball is rolling away.
Oh no.
The flag is falling out. I'm going to find something flat to hold it up on.
Yeah. Did you get one, Finchy? They were giving them out if you played the demo. Oh, damn. Well, yes, I got one as well, but I haven't built it.
That's cool.
But yeah, they're cute little cardboard paper craft things.
There it is.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's just a little golf flag.
Yeah.
They're all made out of wood as well.
Oh yeah.
Which is crazy.
Totally. Yeah.
That's cool.
It's all just made out of wood. The ball is like 3 pieces that just clips together. There's felt glued on top, so this is actual like nice soft felt like you would have at a proper putt course. And then the bottom of it, like this is so well and professionally done. I don't know why they wouldn't have done it like just 3D printed instead, because it probably would have been cheaper. But even the bottom
It's got etching.
has it like kind of wood burnt in the name of the game and
It's really
and their
good.
website, which is very
Totally.
cool. And
You
the
can also-
website is itsanecdotal.com.
Totally.
Let's go check it out.
And I believe this was the same game, but I could be completely wrong. So I might fact check this later. But there's a mailing list you can join for this game, or one of the games at PAX. I think this game. You obviously will get updates on the game, but one of the other things that they sent through was an email with a free game. And the free game was this just really simple little like web browser flash game where you're in a little sword fight against someone. It was really cute.
Nice.
I'll double check later if that was actually from those people. But anyway,
Cool.
It was fun and I played it for a little bit. But I've jumped into the demo on Steam of this since, and like when I was playing it at the demo thing, it hooks into me of like, I can't stop playing this. And then you get conscious that there's people around you and like, I have to stop playing this.
Yeah.
But then when I got back home, I downloaded the demo and I've been jumping back in and just doing little courses, and it's so fun. I can't wait for this to come out. But the other thing I was going to mention is 16-player multiplayer as well.
That's right.
Yeah. And I was like, is it got like collisions, like the golf with your friends and stuff? Has it got all that kind of stuff in it? And it was like, yeah, it'll all be customizable, so you can have collisions on or off, all that kind of thing. Nice. So think golf with your friends, but like random courses. Chaos.
Yeah.
Absolute chaos.
And like more indie looking.
Totally.
The like the what is it? The little animation changing between courses.
Yeah.
Was very cool and
it's like
stylistic.
Kind
and
of like
fun.
puzzle pieces coming together and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's got a very
it looked
minimal art style, but in a good way. Yeah. Awesome. Those are your games, Josh. Do you have anything else you want to quickly shout out?
The only other one would be Shifters is one that I would shout out if I could, which I can because it's my podcast. This was also in the New Zealand section. I didn't get to play it, but I was watching some people play it, and it looked very Hollow Knight in a
nearly every aspect.
In a good way, I think. I didn't get to
totally.
play it. I didn't get to feel it. I didn't get to feel how good it felt. But looking at it, I went, that looks like Hollow Knight, which is potentially a good and bad thing. But if it plays well, and people are still waiting for Hollow Knight, so if you're still waiting to scratch
everyone's still waiting for Hollow
itch,
Knight, Josh.
That's it. So, Shifters. It's SHYFTRS.
Yeah, very cool.
So
Awesome.
go check it out. I think there's also a demo for that too. So you can go check that one out. Maybe I'll actually
Not
download
right
that
now.
Right now.
Oh,
well,
okay.
soon.
We'll download it now. That's fine.
Not play it.
I'm going to do my quick shout-outs off the top while we're at shout-outs. Games I'm not going to talk about in depth, but were really cool that I got to play. The first one, I believe this was one of the first and last games I played, actually, which is kind of funny. That wasn't intentional, but they were. The first game I played was Denari, which is basically, think Hades top-down combat roguelike style, but with a New Zealand setting, and you're kind of using native New Zealand weapons and that kind of thing, and it's super fun. Got like your dodges, your parries, all those kind of things, power-up attacks. Had a lot of fun with that. And then the other game I just want to quickly shout out that doesn't have a Steam page up or anything yet, but you can go to their website. It's made by a group of South Australian developers, and it's called Fox and Shadow. And for people who like Slay the Spire, which is card-based climbing up a tower roguelike game, it's basically that, but kind of in a more futuristic mech sci-fi style setting. And had some really cool mechanics come with like fusing different card powers together that I was super into. The devs were lovely. I'm super keen to see more of it. But yeah, just wanted to quickly shout out those. The games I'm going to go a bit more in depth into though. First up, is one of the games I saw in the New Zealand area as well. This one was called Toroa. And the best way to describe this in a pitch is it is basically Journey, or like Abzu or one of those style games. I believe this is what the dev actually said to me. But set in kind of Maori folklore story and
Cool.
set in New Zealand with New Zealand folklore, all that kind of stuff. And you are basically a albatross, a really big albatross bird that is kind of trying to fly through its migratory pattern to get back somewhere. I can't remember I'm not the dev. Can't give you the exact pitch. But basically, it was very, very cool. I was initially, my eye caught it because it just looked beautiful. It's got a kind of combination of 2D and 3D art styles going on. The environment's very much 3D, but with a kind of often painterly texture. The clouds around you are very much three-dimensional. But I compliment the developer on this. They've done a really good job of marrying that with the rest of the art style of the game. So that it kind of all fits together. And yeah, you're basically playing as this albatross, kind of like flying through the clouds, using like wind tunnels and like the water to kind of like, pitch down and up, kind of like a flight simulator, and trying to control your bird so it keeps its momentum and stuff. And along the way, you meet different creatures. You meet like a whale, you meet other birds, and they all kind of start to follow you. Some of them have little quests. There's a lot of like stuff going on about like conservation and like taking care of the climate and taking care of the oceans and stuff, and like pollution and that kind of stuff that's also going on in the story of this. But super calming, super chill game to play. I just very much like zoned out for 10 minutes or however long the demo was, as I kind of just sat there and played it. And you can play, I think, the full demo on Steam right now. And yeah, I just wanted to shout it out. I think it's super cool as well that we're getting... I'm very happy PAX had this separate New Zealand area, and I know multiple of the games there were like very much inspiring and bringing in Maori folklore and Pacific Island folklore into their games, which is like something we haven't really seen as much. And we're also starting to see it a bit more within the Australian dev community. It's Indigenous developers bringing that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, I think it's super cool to see more of that. On top of the game being gorgeous and very calming and chill to play. It's totally like, if you're into your journeys, your Abzus, your like very simple mechanic kind of games, but good vibes. This is 100% a game for you to check out.
Yeah, I was just looking at the Steam page. Sorry, Finchy. I was just looking at the Steam page and watching the video. It looks lovely. Yeah, and it's very cool. They're like, meeting different characters and stuff. It's funny though, it always makes me think about these sorts of games. Well, any sort of media where this happens, but you're a bird, you can talk, other animals can talk. But then there was a part where they like dive down and eat fish.
Yep. Oh,
it's
yes.
Like, well, what if those fish are also talking, breathing like semi-humanoid characters?
Don't think about too much, Josh.
Interact with.
Nah, don't think about too much.
Brutal.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think we were playing. All of us were playing either the Up to Par or the Monster Racing League, which is another game that I'd put down as a mention. But I looked over and saw Toroa, and I was just watching it and just seeing what it was about. Like, it just really caught my eye, and it's one of the games that I wish I played at PAX, but like it's good having demos on Steam. Yeah. So that I can actually go, okay, cool. I'm in the comfort at home and just play it.
Yeah, and also like it's assuming it's the same demo, which I imagine it would be. It's a very good length demo.
Hopefully,
it cuts off around when you're like, okay, I feel like I'm done with this. Which sometimes, as you mentioned with the Drifter, sometimes they're super long and you're like, oh, I kind of want to check out some other demos and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I think that that's a benefit of it as well. But I'm very keen to see more of this. Also had a lovely, while I was watching the person in front of me play through the demo, had a lovely chat with one of the developers of the game. We were just kind of like chatting about what it's like development, working in the games industry around here. He was a lovely, lovely guy. So that was super cool. And New Zealanders in general, I found, are lovely people. So that's why I spent a lot of time around there. But yeah, that's Toroa. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. There's a lot of Maori names in this, which I'm not going to try and pronounce because I'll butcher them. Because when he said them to me, I was like, that is amazing what you just said. I'm not gonna, I can't do that. But yeah, I think that's how you pronounce the name at least. So very cool. Next game I want to shout out is actually made by someone I know from my earliest days in the Good Game Pocket community and now Back Pocket community, Camo, who is now a developer, a level designer on the game Ascending Inferno. I was really bad at this game. There is a demo on Steam, you can catch of this as well. But basically, the pitch of this is you are trying to kick your brother, headbutt your brother, who is a ball, up through hell. Or down into hell? No, ascending up into hell?
I think it's up through the 7 levels of hell.
Well, that's confusing because normally you go down to hell, but you're ascending up through. Anyway.
Yeah. But I think you're trying to go. Aren't you trying to like get out of hell? Like get you and your brother out of hell?
Oh, maybe that's what it is. You're going up through. Okay. Anyway.
Could be something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's you're a soccer player, and your brother has turned into like an orb that is basically a soccer ball.
Totally. I just want to read this on the Steam page. The story: Meet Danny. She is a goth. Meet Vincent. He currently has no legs. They're a sibling duo that belongs in heaven, except they're trapped in hell. There you go. That's the pitch. That's a great pitch. Yeah, this game is, I guess the best way to describe it is very frustrating. It's one of those games where like the mechanics are very well made and it's very clear what to do, but that doesn't mean you're going to be good at it. And I was really, really bad at it. And gorgeous kind of art style in the background, very techno neon kind of vibe. As you go up through the different levels of hell, they've all got a different kind of art style going on. Yeah, you kind of just like kicking this ball up and up and up, similar to like frustrating games like your Quops and your Bennett Foddies. But I will say the one thing about this game that those games don't have, this one's much nicer to look at. So I feel like you could just kind of like vibe your way through it as you do very badly getting the ball up through the levels. I had Camo standing next to me while I play it, and he was talking to me about how my various colleagues and ETTO friends, including Will, had done at this demo and how I was doing worse than them. And that was very encouraging. But yeah,
thanks, Camo.
But seriously, if you are listening to this, even if you're not, but they've done a fantastic job of this game. They're trying to release it, I think, second half of next year. I think they said Q3 next year, vaguely.
Cool.
But it already seems super polished. Like the game is in a state where I'd say it feels pretty ready. I mean, you obviously can never know with this kind of stuff, but the demo they brought to PAX was super strong, very fun. Did both of you play it? I know Josh Lawrence, you at least played it.
I watched it. I didn't get around to playing it because there were just a stack of people. I think there was like a stack of back pocket people there. So I was like, I'll probably play the demo if it's out. Which I think is it. Did you say Ben?
There is a demo on Steam.
Steam? Yeah. I might get around to playing that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, Sheep, what do you think?
I loved it. Yeah, it was really cool. It was frustrating. There was a point I thought I was doing quite well, and then there was a point where, like I was able to get it like up platforms and stuff pretty well. I was getting pretty happy with that. But then there was a point where you were heading back across, and there was a couple of breaks in the floor. And I kept kicking it over and kicking it too far, and it would roll. The ball would roll and then go down, so you'd have to go down to the floor below and get it back up.
That's where I gave up. Yeah.
I think I did that too many times, and like we've said, there's too many people around.
Yeah.
Like I would sit and play that game for hours.
Absolutely,
hours
and I will
hours for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
But at PAX, you just like there was a lot of people waiting. There was a lot of people wanting to play. So I handed it over, but I loved it. It was really cool. Very, like, it was, simple to play, hard to master sort of game.
And like good feel to it, even if it's difficult.
Yeah.
Like it felt good. The other thing, to show how badly I did, I was getting stuck on the tutorial. They're like, do you want to do the tutorial first? And I was like, yes. And I probably was like the slowest person through the tutorial all weekend.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And Just to also make everybody here feel better about themselves, I overheard one of the devs say that someone came through, some kid came through and finished the demo in 2.5 minutes.
No. Although I did see that they have like a speed run kind of timer mode thing going on. So it does seem like it's going to be one of those kind of games as well. So if you want to get really good at it, you can. Which is cool. The last game I wanted to chat about, and the last game of this whole little PAX rundown, is one I believe, Finchy, you played with me, and Josh, you kind of watched the end of us playing. I believe I played it with Will as well, and someone else. I can't remember who. Milk. And this was called Which Way Up. And this is a party, a space-time party game where you are kind of fighting against gravity and using the gravity of various things in space to kind of pull you around the map. And there's all these different kind of modes. Like some of them you're attacking your teammates. Some of them you're trying to outrun a black hole. It's a super fun little party game. You got these cute little characters modeled after different planets and stuff. We had a ball playing this. It was a very quick little gameplay session we had. But I'm so excited to hopefully do this on like a stream or something in the future. Because it already, I think they say it has like 12 different game modes. It already had a lot of those in the game, and they were all varied and
different
interesting.
game modes. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, like I completely forgot that we played it, but it was such a, like, remembering now, it was such a good party game that you could play with like friends and stuff. It was just built to be fun.
Yeah, and also a frustrating game. Simultaneously frustrating, but also very satisfying with the mechanics, because you're kind of trying to use gravity to like pull yourself across to various different platforms and stuff. And it can get annoying if you're not succeeding, but it's also a super rewarding one to, again, kind of master. I think we were... there was one particular one I remember where you were running away from this black hole at the edge of the screen. I was very bad at it. I got eliminated pretty quickly. I believe it was maybe Finchy and I think Will, who were the last two left. And the two of you were so good at this that the black hole had basically covered the entirety of the screen except this tiny little bit. And they were still running. And I feel like I overheard the devs being like, how are they still alive? We didn't account for this.
Yeah, because it just like kept creeping, and like it made it more difficult the more the black hole crept. And in that, I think in that one you could hit opponents, so you could attack opponents.
Totally, you could attack your opponents and push them backwards.
And so I think at that point Will and I were both on 1 life each, because you get lives as well. And he had just fallen off, or I'd hit him or something. And then, I quickly fell after that. But because he fell first, he lost.
It's pretty remarkable.
So.
Super fun little game. Very keen to see a bit more of it. Very simple premise, but super well executed. That's PAX.
That was it.
That's all the games. Not all the games. There was a lot of games at PAX.
No.
Plenty of games we played. There was also like Mario Wonder there, and I was... I would have if the game didn't come out like less than 2 weeks after that. So
it's like out in 3 days.
I can wait. I was like, I can wait. It's probably out by the time this pod's out.
Oh no, it will be actually. It very much will be. But there was plenty of stuff at PAX. Couldn't check out all of it, but I'm glad I got to check out a bunch of these games that we all talked about. Keen to do PAX again next year. Do panel, play more games. And see all these games hopefully actually come out, some of them over the next year or so in the meantime.
Yeah, for sure.
I do have a question that I came up with early in the podcast.
Yes.
With you two having many PAX years under your belt, did you miss having like the big, like other big companies like Xbox and Sony there? Did you miss having those big AAA games there, like companies there? Or did you like the fact that there was more room for indies to be there?
That's a good question. I feel like the first couple of years, at least, not all of the pre-COVID years, but the first 2 years that I went, which was there was 1 year that I went that was my very first year. We didn't do a panel. and then the year after that we did. So those years had all the big dogs and a fairly small indie section.
Yeah.
And then the next year, the indie section was huge, but they still had the big dogs there, which was cool. I think one of the funny things about PAX now is that because those big guys aren't there, there's a lot of other companies that are filling the space that you wouldn't expect to be there. They sometimes sort of fit there, but they had Crunchyroll there, which fits in a way. That's fine. Last year, I know Back Pocket was very linked to the Aussie broadband booth.
Yep,
and they were random to be there.
They're there again. They had a VR booth. The one thing I will say with them, they very much advertise their internet to gamers, so I can I can understand that a bit more. But
that's true. That's true. But those booths being quite big. Sega was there this year, which was also random to see, a huge Sega booth.
Totally. Well, they have Sonic, and that's all.
Yeah, they have that. They have that one thing. But it just I don't know. To answer your question, I feel like I do kind of miss it. It's cool having the whole group, all of the big dogs there. They each bring big games. At least in the past, I've wanted to play probably one or two of the games that each of the big guys bring along. And I feel like the big guys bring along big games that aren't necessarily exclusive to their platform as well. Because in the past, I don't know if it was to within one of those, an Xbox, PlayStation, or Nintendo group, but there's a big Hitman section that's there, and it's computers and computers and computers for Hitman, things like that, which is very, very cool, and it's cool to be able to go in and play those. So I feel like while I feel nowadays more patient to just wait for the game to come out, there are probably some games that the big guys would bring along that I would be very, very keen to experience. I almost definitely would have jumped on to see Spider-Man if Spider-Man was there this year.
Yeah. I was talking to Will in the lead up to this, I think about Sony not being there. And I was like, I was telling him, they could have completely had Spidey there, because I assumed that it was going to be gold before PAX, and it did end up being gold before PAX.
People had review copies of it, so it's the game was ready.
So they could have just had a developed demo of it.
Totally. My thing on this, I'm probably similar to Josh, but reasoning wise maybe a bit different. I do think I don't want any return of them to be at the expense of the indie section, or potentially growing the indie section. Because the indies are what make PAX for me, and always have, even when the big guys were there. The games I always go away remembering are the indie games, because the big games I've hear about them all the time, on the internet and stuff. So I'm not going to remember about them because of PAX. I might play one or two and be like, oh, cool, I really like that more than I was expecting. But the indies are the ones that the discoveries of PAX, which I think is really cool. I do. Less that I would play them, because I've never been one to line up in the big Mario Wonder lines or anything, but I do think they're missing out by not being at PAX. I think Nintendo having a presence is really good. I know the overall Xbox and PlayStation have kind of pulled back from conventions across the world, and E3 and all these kind of things. But I feel like it being the one big Australian event, and it being drawing all these people, and PAX being... Most of the PAXs in America have died at this point. There's only one or two left. Whereas PAX Australia is the event and continues to live on and stuff. And I feel them not having any sort of presence there, or there's some companies who would have had stuff across the weekend, but they were just minor parties elsewhere or small gatherings. And it's I feel they're undervaluing what PAX does for Australia and gaming in Australia in particular. And maybe they're applying their global strategy to it and being well, we not at all these events, we don't need to be at PAX Australia. But I think there is something to be said for the difference for what this convention is to a lot of those other ones that we hear more about. And I think coming back, even if it's smaller booths, I think would be super beneficial to them, and also would just if it would feel a bit more like we're treated with respect, you know, like that we're important enough, and like, especially when Xbox is making deals with so many indie developers and stuff to like be on Game Pass and stuff. I imagine them having a big Game Pass set up there and being like, hey, you know, and hopefully they're talking to people across the weekend, but they're like, you love indie games, that's what PAX is about. Let's check out a bunch of indies that are on Game Pass. That kind of thing, I think would be super cool.
Really cool.
And would really like...
Yeah, that'd be sick.
Ultimately, it's a corporate thing, so I don't know if it'd happen, but would really like lean into the idea that like of PAX being a gaming community event where the whole gaming community gets together rather than just Nintendo and the local indie scene. And I'm really glad Nintendo continue to be there in some form. I don't think they've really not been there in a year because they tend to have a game coming out. And I think that's really good. And it, you know, I think there is totally the floor space for them to take that, you know, them not being there means there's more floor space available, basically. But if they wanted it, they could take it.
I think one of the things that helps with Nintendo as well is there are Nintendo offices in Australia.
Totally, in Melbourne.
In Melbourne, specifically.
Yeah.
The Filthy Casuals lately on their YouTube channel and in their podcast, and also they discussed it in their panel, which was after hours on Saturday night. They discussed going to a bunch of these events and getting to try Mario Wonder and WarioWare and things like that.
And so, if you want us to be able to do that, because Josh and I live in Melbourne, get this podcast popular, please. Let me go to Nintendo.
Please, pump it up. But it probably helps Nintendo get to PAX because they're literally here already.
Yeah, totally. The only flip side of it is, as I said earlier, I did like that the floor felt like it had more space. It felt less cramped than in previous years, and I kind of, if there's some way to bring the other two back, the Xbox and PlayStation back, while kind of still having that feeling, that would be great, but I acknowledge you maybe can't have both. And I think I'd ultimately rather they are there to like make it a bigger event and like, again, the respect thing than like not have them there.
I feel like it'd make it more of a significance for the for PAX to be held. Like if they had a presence.
Yeah, totally. And I think from an indie developer's perspective, there's obviously our big local scene here. I know there are meetings going on with PlayStation and stuff at like GDC in the week, GCAP in the week before, and I'm sure those meetings are happening behind closed doors. But I think like, just having their presence more publicly, I think would be a nice thing, even for maybe developers that don't have those deals, to be like, hey, they're here, I'm here. That's a cool thing. Maybe I can think about how I can make my thing get on their thing as like a more like realistic idea than like, oh, I've heard they're having meetings with someone behind this door, that kind of thing. So that's kind of my feeling on it. But ultimately, I still think PAX was great in the form it was in this year. So if it doesn't happen, it's a bit of a shame, but I think it's all right.
Yeah, cool.
Nice. Alrighty. That's where our quest is complete. That's what we like to say at least.
Awesome. Thank you for having me along.
No worries.
Thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, we'd love to have you back, have more of the ETTO crew along at various points in time. There are big games coming out potentially that we might need to talk to many people about.
Very big game.
Thwip. Wowie Zowie.
That was Mario, right?
That was the second one was Spider-Man. The first one was Mario. Yeah, nailed
Spider-Man famously says "Wowie Zowie."
He sure does. And we're going to talk about the Wowie Zowie Spider-Mans probably on the next episode of this podcast, which may be next week. Josh and I are probably going to do a lot of these in the near future because there's just a lot of games to cover out. Yeah. So keep an eye out in the Discord to find out what exactly is happening with those, if you can contribute in any way. But other than that, etto.card.co for all our links with 2 R's in the card. You can go to our Redbubble, our Twitch, our YouTube, all through there and get all the things you want, including the milk shirt Josh talked about earlier. Until next time, as we said, quest complete. We all get a bunch of XP.
Yes.
3,000 each.
Right.
I've been Ben.
I've been Josh. Just sheep.
And I've been Josh, but the Fincherlicious version.
Fincherlicious.
Fincherlicious.
Whippy whippy.
Wowie zowie.
Okay.